Okay, now I'm going to see if I can go live on Facebook. Let's see. The wonders of technology.
I know.
Share on your timeline. Yep. Okay. Let's see. All right, it's preparing a live streaming preview.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, it does. Let's see if it works. So once we get started, Michelle, I'll you can start the introduction.
Sounds good.
Hang on a second. What's going on here? It's got like a Facebook screen up, but nothing seems to be happening.
Okay.
No. Says it's still preparing. Preparing, recording. Go live on Facebook. Nothing seems to be happening.
Does it still just say preparing?
Yeah, it just still says preparing for some reason.
Okay.
So I think we might just leave that. So just give me one more second.
Do it, sister.
No, so I wonder if there has to be extra, if there has to be some sort of connection in between that I need to set up.
Okay.
Look at it, and it didn't seem to be something, but it's just not, like, it's connected to Facebook, but then it's not doing anything.
Okay.
So I think we might just roll without it and then just see what happens. So it's definitely not. So I'm just going to press stop live stream. I'm going to stop recording that one. Actually, no, I'll just keep recording and then I'll edit it.
Setting or something on Facebook maybe that we have to turn on? I don't know.
I don't know. I'll check out the back end of Facebook as well, and I'll look it up on Google and just see. I'll see what Google says.
Hopefully Google gives better advice than Zoom does. Like,
yeah.
Remember that? It's like helpful.
Give us a break, Zoom.
Throw me a bone here.
All right, so let's just get started, and then I'll just edit it from the time that you come in, Michelle.
All right, sounds good. So hello everyone, and welcome to Roaring Truth with Love with Kirsty, myself, and Linda Mosure. Linda Mosure is our second guest in the Elder series, or the Elder Crone series. And we are so happy to have you with us here tonight or this morning for Kirsty's time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually read the introduction that I wrote, Linda, for our advertisements within social media, because I feel like it really just sums up many aspects of your soul. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a little read. So it is challenging to define Linda with labels or titles or to define her service in the world. This is true for all of us who be, but I find it particularly challenging with Linda. She is dynamite. She is herself. She does not fear. She just lives. She has traveled the awakening and healing path for many years, and today she assists those who are dying and their families in a blessed crossing. Her presence is powerful and fiercely loving. One of the things I most love about Linda is her connection to her inner child. She has helped me remember how to play more deeply, and children are innately drawn to her, including my own children, by the way. Linda's knowing in God, in herself and her purpose here, and in humanity in the world comes across in her energy and every word she speaks. And that is so you, Linda, 100%. Everyone who meets you feels that and feels grateful to have spent time with you and to have been around you. So Linda is a respite caregiver and a doula, a death doula. And so the first question that Kirsty and I have for you is, who are you? But if there's a way to also sort of tie that in to the work that you do as a death doula, like maybe how your life experience thus far has led you into this work and into the knowings that you bring into this work.
Oh, hi everyone. Yes, okay, now we'll kind of start from the beginning. Now, even as a young child, I always enjoyed people. I've always been, just loved to be around people, and I've always had a connection to older people and children. Now, the middle people, I kind of leave them alone and let them do their own thing. But my calling is for little people and old people. Now, of course, now I'm one of the old people. But so taking time for myself too, like that can always be challenging. But so working with the elderly, of course, one way to do that would be to work in the nursing home in that environment. And so you meet so many of the families in that environment. So as you're just doing your daily work with the older person and their families, you just have such a close connection. And now myself, I worked there for many years and I did enjoy it. But then I would have families call me, then I would come over and assist their relative or their person, like, you know, when I'm off duty or whatever. So I've always had that connection, helping, you know, kind of when I'm called. So that's all I can think of for this minute.
So something that I feel like is challenging for humans to connect to or to grasp is the idea of impermanence or death. And your connection to both children and the elderly, to me, it sort of represents like an innate understanding of that impermanence and the infinity of that impermanence. It's like both children and the elderly are closest to God, closest to source. Do you feel like
now,
that?
Oh, absolutely. That is so true. Now, as we're alive and we're doing what we do, it's such a hard concept to understand our end days. Number one, I'm going to say, as we get older, our fear is of pain. Pain is what causes the greatest fear. And then, of course, for the ones around us that love us, then it's the loss of the one that's passing. But for me, like when I look at them and say to them, now just remember what they were before they became sick and celebrate all the life that they've already had, which our society kind of doesn't have a lot of room for that interpretation of what our life is. So that is something that I kind of like. If I don't say it in words, words aren't always the answer. It's how you feel, what comes out of you that's invisible. I don't know all the right words for all that action that actually goes on while you're doing that kind of work. But certainly just the sense that you want to say to them, just, love them as they are, because they're the ones that are experiencing leaving, and no one wants to leave. We don't want to leave. But then, then at other times, depending on our physical self, we're glad to go. So if the families can say, okay, you've done what you have to do, now it's okay to go, so while you're there with them, you just kind of sense all those things and just kind of help them to deal with, with that. Is that what you mean? What?
Yeah. And I feel like just this whole topic in general is so appropriate for what's going on right now, right? Because of this fear of virus, this fear of death.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
it all sort of relates to like this illusion that we have some kind of control, right? Over our life, over impermanence, over death, all of that. Go ahead, Kirsty. I see you trying to talk.
And so often, I don't want to talk over the top of you. So often, when you ask a person what's the opposite to death, they will say life. And life is not the opposite to death. Birth is the opposite to death.
Yes.
We are born in this world. We live this amazing life, and then we pass. We die. But the thing is that, after 12 months, every 12 months, we're basically a new person, because all our cells in our body have died and renewed themselves. So, it's such a beautiful gift that you offer people to be able to be present with them. And as I'm listening to you, Linda, like the question came to me of how and when did you decide that this is what you wanted to do and to be and to allow yourself to share this part of you with other people? How did that come about?
Well, I think one of the reasons that I enjoy and I'm so at home with this kind of work, because number one, there is no death. Number two, spirit is very strong. Now, spirit visits me a lot. So I am so connected. For me, the veil between life and death is really very thin. And I have no fear of going through that or almost feeling the spirits on the other side. I don't want to sound too wackadoodle, but the spirits on the other side, because we're not just bone, blood, whatever else this is made up of. We are so much more than that. And I just somehow connect into that. Now, my upbringing, I kind of have learned life through the hard knock school. That's the kind of school I went to. So I never had all of the quote normal connections. I'm not sorry one moment for my upbringing or how I lived, because maybe that is one of the reasons why I'm more comfortable with kind of what other people, like the areas that they're afraid of. But if you can just be calm about it and just I kind of like want to bring forth, if you can just find room to love and not be scared that this passing time, for them, it's not painful, honest. You've heard of the band of angels are coming after you. Well, there's a little bit of truth in and this is only what I have felt, no one's told me that, no one, it's just what I know from my own experience, because it is that is so kind of true. What happens, you are led in love. That's why all people, to me, there is no hell. Heaven is the only place that everyone goes, because when that time comes, and then in spirit, in our soul, in our spirit, that's where we kind of we keep having the opportunity to come back and keep trying, because our soul wants us to just to keep moving. And that idea that you get that rest and peace, that's, they only let you rest about 5 minutes, because spirit is always helping us here on you. That rest in peace, there's no resting. We don't, because we're energy. We're energy. The world is energy, and it just keeps moving. And that idea of resting. But see, I'm not real good at meditating or being too quiet. I make myself, and I can't do it for very long. But I know that that's something I have to work on, is that resting business, like just stay calm. Well, for maybe 3 minutes, and that's it.
It's funny that you bring up meditation, though, because
Yeah.
in Tibetan Buddhism, like one of the basic Buddhist reflections is to meditate on death, or on
Yes.
our impermanence. And the whole point of that is to help us connect to something that we have forgotten, which is the beauty in our impermanence and the gratitude that we can access through that impermanence. I mean, it can completely shift the way that we navigate every moment, every relationship. I know sometimes even, if I'm having a day, a stressful day, with the kids, and I'm running here and there and all this stuff is going on, I'll sort of recenter in that and just meditate on death a little bit. And, even if it's just 5 minutes, it sort of like takes me back up into that bird's eye view and reminds me of like how petty like this thing is, or how small this thing is, sort of like in the whole scheme of things,
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love that, the contemplation of our own impermanence, because the moment we do that, the moment that we decide to contemplate our own impermanence, we come into this present moment, don't we?
Right.
And
Yes.
it's when we're in this present moment, it's actually when we're in the present moment that we have peace. And I always bring everything back to nature. And I was walking this morning, and it was a really still morning. And I looked over at just some grass that was on the side of the road, some really long grass. And I just saw steam like coming off the grass, because the sun was coming down on it, and it had been a dewy night. And so this steam was coming up, and I thought, it looks so still, but it looks like it's resting, but it's still moving. Everything's still moving in there. Nothing has stopped, and nothing ever stops at any time. And, nature always helps us to remind us that birth and death are the same. And you said there is no death, and it's just a life cycle.
Right. Yep. And that life cycle is so reflected in nature, and it's trying to remind us, it's trying to help us remember, because we did know this, we've just forgotten, but it seems like this is something that you never did forget. You were able to remember through your life.
Yes. Yep. I will say yes. That is very true. With me, that I'm just so comfortable there. I just don't,
Yeah. And, also, and I know you said before you don't want to get too woo-woo, but woo-woo is okay. Just for the viewers that aren't aware of this, Linda is also my mother-in-law. So I'm super blessed and grateful to have that connection. But because of that, we've had many conversations, over the last few years, and you're also able to help others to move forward, those who have already passed over. And so that it's like, your total lack of fear, because you're able to see the life cycle, essentially opens you, right, to being able to see beyond that veil in so many ways. And so then it sort of feeds itself, and it sort of becomes this whole other cycle, in a sense, where it just keeps feeding itself. Your ability to see informs your work, here in the physical world as well.
Well, speaking of that, I just would like to say quickly now, that, again, this is only my belief, but I believe that all of our souls, and we'll call it heaven because that's my best word for it, souls want to experience everything that God has made on this earth. Souls want to come back here and have these experiences that they are willing. Now, what I see, the souls are up there talking with spirit, and the two of them decide what part of the earth are we going to live in, what group of people do we want to be with, what exactly are our experience is going to be. Because when you're in spirit, everything is la 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 la, nothing is hard. It's not thick like earth. So they all make up their ideas of what they want to do. Spirit agrees to it. Then they look down and say, well, what parents do we want to live through and experience? So then they decide, all right, I want Michelle and Chris to be my mother and father. Now, this is how I see it. So that's what the babies come. They already know all the experiences. We are born in ourselves with everything we need to know on this earth. But the problem is now, God, why you did that, I don't know. The moment we're born, we forget. So here we are, a newborn baby. We have all the knowledge in our own body. Everything we ever have to know is in here. The trouble is we have free will, and we forgot what the struggle is. Number one, being born is just as hard as dying. Look where you're coming from and look where you're going. So just to me, that beauty alone. So here we are, this little baby. So our job is to remember why we're here, who are we supposed to help, what are we supposed to do, and that to me is one of the biggest problems that we have, because we forgot why we're even here. And then that's where the journey of being awake, helping others, getting out of ourselves, not being afraid to talk, all of those things all come into play. And that's why we're here where we are today, because for me to even say yes to this, it's because of your women's circle. Just for me, that's how many months have we had the circle? That
3.
I have grown about 5 times.
Yeah,
I have grown just from that, just to help me to even be here talking like this is just totally out of women of my age if we're not in this kind of work to begin with. That's the first circle I have never been around such wonderful women all in a big group from all over the world. I think it's very exciting. So,
and that's what we're all being called to do, right?
Yes.
To remember who we are. And so it's like we have that struggle of being born and we don't remember, but the gratitude and the gift is in embodying who we are again and remembering who we are. And
you know how, like your kids, like they'll be like 3 or 4 and they'll do something and you'll think, well, where did they learn that? They haven't learned that from anything we've ever done or been around. Well, where'd it come from? So that's how every individual child is his own self, with his own set of what he's got to do. I don't want to lecture or be like that, but it's just that's why the children, they're who they are. And so we just got to deal with that somehow to help them to know it's okay,
So beautiful the way that you just described that, Linda. And then, Michelle, when you said that, what I was thinking when I was listening to Linda, you said it, is the waking up is remembering who we are and remembering why we came here. And that choice that we make as the soul when we have that conversation with spirit. And I don't know if either of you ladies have read the children's books written by Neil Donald Walsh, which were children's books out of his Conversations with God book that he wrote. That was a profound book that really changed my life, Conversations with God. But there's a little children's book called The Little Soul in the Sun, and it's essentially about what you just described, Linda, is that the little soul is standing there and he's having a conversation with the sun or God or spirit, and the little soul says, I want to go back to earth. And so they have this conversation, and then God asks him, what is it that you want to learn? And he says, I want to learn forgiveness. And God, says, wow, that's a really, really big decision that you're making here. Are you sure that you want to learn forgiveness in this lifetime? And he says, yes. And then another little soul steps forward, and God says, who will help this soul learn forgiveness on earth? And the little soul steps forward and says, I will. And then the conversation plays out. And essentially, in the end, this little soul says, but in the moment I strike you, you must remember this conversation, for I will have forgotten. Oh. And it's such a powerful, powerful book. My mum gave it to me when my eldest daughter was born.
Tears in my eyes. It's so yes. So what's the name of that? Tell me the name of that.
It's called The Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh.
The Little Soul in the Sun. All right, that sounds beautiful, sister. Wow. Yeah.
And you know, what Linda said about choosing our parents, that's so beautiful for us to remember as parents as well. You know, I had that knowing, I'd remembered that knowing when my children were born. And so more so when my second was born. And so when she was born, by the time she was 3, she was talking to me about her past lives. And I was kind of sitting there just going, oh. And then one day we're sitting there having this conversation, and she goes, you know, Mum, I'm so glad I chose you. And I said, oh, that's good. I'm glad you chose me too. And she goes, yeah, I was sitting there when I was deciding who I was going to choose, and it came down to between you and a Chinese lady. And she said, but you looked heaps happier and nicer, so I chose you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, my golly. Good. Mm-hmm.
She would have been 4 years old when she told me that story.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's one of those moments where it's like a child says something like that. And so often, you know, if the parent doesn't have awareness, if the parent doesn't awaken, then they're just going to be like, oh, you know, they're telling stories, or it's just nonsense. And then and then that would be a response that would contribute potentially to Penny we both have Pennies, well, Penelope, going back to sleep. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But we were able to like validate that and support that. She could just keep like flowering, you know, keep.
In reality, how can a 4-year-old know that? How can they not only know, but articulate that kind of information?
Exactly.
Now,
in reality, absolutely, yeah, totally.
Now, Kirsty, when that happened, did you understand what she was saying? Did you understand where she was coming from? You're knowing you.
I was blown away because I'd had the theoretical knowledge, but not the experience. And in that moment, she brought that experience into my life, and the realization of this is actually what happens, because she's remembered it and she's articulated it to me.
And that's and in our environment in schooling, those kind of things are not accepted by institutions, you know, I mean, and we as peoples, we need to find our groups and stay in our groups, so then children will forget about their invisible playmates and on and on and on, only because they don't want to be, children don't like to be the only one that thinks that way, you know, that, you know, I'm not sure what all those words are, but you know what I'm trying to say, you know, how kids don't like to be ridiculed by their friends, so they'll just be quiet about things. So parents that they can talk to, is that it's just great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And all of that just contributes so much to, the illusion of separation, right? Like when you're having a perceptual reality and it's like real to you, but the world is telling you that it's not happening.
Yes.
That's sort of like one of our first experiences with trauma, because that is trauma. Whenever, a perceptual reality is sort of bypassed, it's a trauma. And with the addition of that illusion of separation, that's when we also bring in more fear as well. And, now we're alone, now we're fearing death, right? And the more that we forget, the more that we fear death and all those things. So everything sort of, the matrix just sort of like sets it up really beautifully to sort of contribute to that fear of death, which is why what's happening right now is, working on many levels, but at the same time that the light is shining in the darkness, right? It's happening so strongly so that we have an opportunity to really see what's going on and shift this and to more deeply remember. We were never going to remember any other way if we just kept going down that trajectory. We really needed a big shake.
Oh yes.
And that aspect of the fear that you just described, Michelle, that was when you were talking before, Linda, about helping people find the love. That's really difficult for so many people at this time, because there's so much that's being people are being bombarded with to attempt to make them feel fearful. So it's when I think about that, it's not hard for me because I've been doing it now for so long, because thankfully I did wake up and I did remember who I am. But how do we help those people to remember love and to remember their innate connectedness and oneness at those times?
Well, one thing, I think this forum right here that you two ladies have put together, and that is why I personally am so happy to be here just talking right now. I think that's the number one thing that can go on, is for us, when you go out in the world, every time you meet people, every time you are around them, even though we have to wear a mask and whatever, still I'm not only hopeful, but I know that I'm gonna boldly say this, our kind of love, I'm sorry, makes a difference. For every time we speak this, every time this goes out into the air, what is that, the butterfly effect or whatever, every time we say no to your nonsense, let's stop this fear, every time that happens, and you two have got a lot to do with helping that to get out there. For me, that is the very important thing that we can do, is what we're doing right now. The more women that we are now, the grandmothers and grandfathers, they come out of the ground for me. And they truly, that was thanks to Bev, that now I still have them around me. They're still with me. And I believe that there's going to be 70% of us to 30% of the dark, of the mean, of the whatever other words we want to bring up, not the lies, however they're trying to control us. I think it's always been that way, but the last months, due to this going on now, has just like tripled that. So for me, what we're doing now, we can't stop. We have to keep going. That to me is the answer. There has to be more more of the love, of the kindness, the tears, the crying, the looking right in the face. If a tornado is coming, it's your women that we're going to be the ones that are, and our men, drag them along too. And that is my hope, that. And not only is it a hope, but I see it, I sense it, I know it, because you have helped to bring together a very important group. And we're talking the world. We're not just talking Lockport, New York. It's like such a big environment. So, and I know that someone else is going to pick it up. Someone else is going to pick it up. As long as someone breaks through that cold ice barrier, knocks the holes right in it, and go forward. We've always done it from the beginning of time. That is the womanhood, with the men dragging, pull them along. I mean, that's just kind of, I'm exaggerating, but there's some men too. I don't mean that a minute, but I mean, it is us. It is the women, and they're going to try to, the young women today want to, what is it? Have their babies with no sex, have something till they can decide what they are. And there's just so many things that are the left, I believe, that's just plain crazy, that we are what we are. Women are women, men are men. I don't mean, so I'm rambling, so let's stop me.
I just want to say, and I know Kirsty, I know that you know this too, just from the time that you've spent with Linda over the last few months, but everything that you were saying before about like, keep going, that is so you. And I hope that everyone that watches this can feel that like you are here with your elder wisdom, with your crone voice, and you are not saying one damn thing that you do not do yourself throughout your whole life. And I know this because of everything that's been shared with me since the time that I met you, from you and from other people. But you're just such a beautiful model of what that looks like, to just keep going with love in your heart. And it's that fierce warrior love that you have just brought with you throughout your life. And so it's just such a beautiful energy that I feel like knowing you has infused myself with more of a remembrance of it in me, so
what I think of that of both of you too. You're both just, and you're just wonderful.
What I just took away from what you said, Linda, is in the question I asked, is how do we help people remember to love, is help them remember that it's okay to honor all of their feelings, because it's like the darkness is a judgment. Light and dark exist together, don't they? Like light can't exist without dark, and dark can't exist without light. Light exists, like the light exists within the dark, and the dark exists within the light. This is what we know to be true. And because we've judged death as bad, and therefore the grieving process as bad, because we don't want to die and we don't want to lose anything and we don't want to change, people forget that it's okay for them to grieve. There's cultures in the world that will spend months and months, years grieving the loss of loved ones. We've forgotten how to do that in our culture. And that's what I took away from what you just said, is when I honor myself and how I feel, I remember how to love.
Yes.
Because if I'm sad about losing the physical body of somebody who I've loved so dearly, it's okay. And it's okay for me to feel sad about that, and to let myself express that sadness to its fullest degree.
Yes, that is so very true. Yeah, because there again, I believe once we're honest and we truly can say, yes, I love this person, but I see that they're leaving us, I just think that helps that process a little bit more, that comes because it's the fear. And where they're going is a wonderful place. It's not, I don't mean to go there ahead of time, but I just mean that where they're going. And I think people think that, what I think is that people think that their life, that they haven't done any good in their life. So they're going to go to hell, or they're going to go to a bad place. That's underneath everything. Sometimes I think that's what they're thinking of the person that's passing. So if you somehow can help them to know that they have lived a good life, that they have done good things, then maybe they won't be so afraid. Maybe that, I don't say that in words, but it's just like in my heart, I just think that. Or maybe they were late with putting dinner on the table, or just for us humans, us everyday little people, it's the silly things like you were saying, like, that's so silly. Why would I worry if I burnt the soup? But it becomes a big thing when we're upset and afraid and scared. So often, as we go through that process, I just think there's just ways that help them to realize that their life has been good, that it's just a hard thing to explain what I'm feeling. I don't have the words.
No, you're doing an excellent job. And what I'm feeling from that is the immensity of your work in that space, because like Kirsty was saying, all of those repressed emotions. So like Kirsty, you were talking about not grieving, or not allowing ourselves to grieve. It's the same throughout our lives, right? Like not allowing ourselves to feel, not honoring our emotions. And so, by the time we get to a place of crossing over, we have all of these repressed emotions in our bodies and in our minds, in our hearts. We haven't necessarily, learned how to, or honored ourselves in the space of feeling. And so all that stuff, it's all so compiled. It's like layers and layers and layers. And to bring that with us into transitioning into something else would be very, very painful. And so I'm just honoring the depth of the work that you're doing in that space, helping both the person who is crossing over and the family to honor their emotions, honor their grief, possibly receiving permission to do so for the first time in their lives.
Yes.
Especially with that generation, like baby boomer generation and older. Because we were talking about this previously, ladies, how it's sort of it's a recent concept of, even within mainstream psychology, right? We're learning to self-care, learning to self-love, learning to honor your emotions, honoring emotions in your children, not expecting your children to feel in ways that keep you comfortable, because this is what that does. And this is what that does. So,
right.
So, you're working with a generation of humans who, all of that stuff, that very foreign concepts, right? And so the immensity of the work in that space.
Absolutely. And I think about the repression of all of those emotions and how they create such a level of density of the physical body when that person is about to cross over, and that creates resistance in that person as well. And so there's all of this resistance that's there, and it has come from this inability of ours to be able to talk about what's truly going on for us, and to be able to allow ourselves to authentically communicate with one another. And that's what you said before as well, Linda, was like just having these conversations, having these circles where we come together and we allow ourselves to be seen and felt exactly as we are in this moment. And we've not, historically, in the last 100 years, we've not done that as a culture, as a society. So, I mean, it's huge what you offer.
Yes.
My pennies.
It is.
Is that your daughter?
Yeah, that's the little one who told me that she was glad that she chose me instead of the
Yes.
Chinese lady.
I just love that story. It just, oh, that's perfect. Yes. Mhm.
Oh, I've just got all of these people coming in here right now.
Oh, that's good. We love it. We love people.
Thank you.
Oh, he's got me a coffee.
Learning to grieve as well. It's when we truly, truly learn to honor our grief, we open ourselves to a greater place of love as well, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And so conversely, we're held back from love, right? When we're not able to truly honor our grief. I mean, the way that we can love, how big we can love, like how astonishing is the size of our love when we can just allow ourselves to fully grieve and fully feel and just fully feel everything, just the whole gamut of emotions. But when we cut off the other emotions, we cut ourselves off from love, because opposite of love is fear, right?
Yes. 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 And like you were saying too, our what are the words? Not persistent to what's that word? We put our foot in the sand and say no, we're not. That word, I can't think of what it is, but we're too resistant for the now. Too often we don't want to believe or understand or accept. But there again, that's our choice. When we make choices, and we as peoples, we struggle with that. We struggle with.
And I think it's okay too, if I'm thinking about that situation where someone is about to cross over, it's okay for me if I feel sad about it and I don't want them to go. It's okay for me to go, no, I don't want you to go, and to get, to feel angry about that. And again, it's that honoring that process within myself. And you look at what's going on. We were talking about this before we came on. You look at what's going on out there. More of us need to say no in a balanced, powerful way. But how can we do that if we haven't let ourselves do that for the little things?
Exactly. Right. Yes. Yep. That is so very true. Yeah. Now, totally. And also speaking of that, I lost my train. I had it for a minute. It'll come back to me.
I find that aspect of watching, particularly in our country, because in Australia it's been very minimal. I mean, Victoria's been on the global stage. The state of Victoria has been on the global stage, and the draconian measures that have been imposed upon down there. But really, in the rest of Australia, there's really not been much happening in the way of this pandemic. Let's use the word, or that might be a key word that isn't a good thing. But anyway, let's use it anyway. And people who stand up and say no, there's still a division amongst people who are saying no, that's not okay, and people who want things just to go back to normal. And those people who are standing up and saying no, this is not okay, are being ridiculed by the people who just want it to go back to normal, and we should just be quiet. And the reason we are here right now is because this is not in a way meant to blame anybody, is because we've been too quiet for too long, and we've been too not prepared to say no, or not prepared to honor how we're feeling and share that with others. We've been that way for too long. Would you agree with that, Linda?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I would. Yes, because number one, we as peoples, like in all of our houses, the man, the wife, the children, the however the situation is, all we're trying to do is make a living, get our food, get our clothes, have our family as happy as possible. And we don't have a lot of time to worry about what senator is doing what, and what army's going to march down the road with guns. And we, as a normal, regular people, if that isn't our regular life, we're struggling just to get through. And that was before the pandemic. So the way that I see it, so every family, they're not going to worry that much about if bread goes up 5 cents. But what can you do about it? We're just a regular little guy making, 15, 20 an hour, whatever. So people go along like that, and they don't really worry that much about the price of gas going up, because how can we do anything about it? So as the laws are written and all the things that are done to us, I just feel we have less and less power. So if we try, like you're saying, if you try to go out and say anything, you're ridiculed. So you're going to go back to your house and stay there. So until you can get enough people, now try to get 5 people to decide what flavor of ice cream do we want tonight. You'll spend 10 minutes because nobody is going to agree. So you can't even watch the movie together if you've got 4 adults in the house. Now what? We got a war because nobody wants to watch. So figure that. Now that's a tiny little level. That's just everyday life. That's what we deal with every day. We as women and men and kids, we're all in this lump together and we're trying to figure it out. Now you got the people that run it all. And when they don't know what they're doing, like now, here we go. So just trying to get people together to even figure out the right way to go about it. That's way beyond. I mean, I can't tell you how to make electricity for the house or bring gas into the stove. I'm clueless. So that's got to be somebody else's job, because it won't be mine, because I can't figure that out. So where do we go from now? Who can we trust? Who knows how to get the electric into the house at a better price? So to me, now pile that on. So now you're going to go up to your presidents or your whoever's running your countries. And I'm telling you, that's where I'm lost. But if the little people that are what I call myself, I'm the everyday people. If we can just figure out how 5 of us can agree on one thing, we got something going on. And that's kind of what this group of women together, we all have a mutual, even though we're all different ages, we're all different cultures, we come from all different areas, we still are learning from one another. So that's where I'm hopeful. That's where because when you think of the big picture, don't you get a headache? I do. It gives me a headache when I try to think if I had to run the world. I would be very lost. But if we can continue on a smaller level, then gain some experience, some understanding, then when we go out into the world, we might be better off. Did I make any sense at all? I kind of went off on a tangent. So
you made complete sense. And I think that is the crux of it, is sort of a smaller level, right? Even like Kirsty, you were talking about, the people who want to go back to normal. What was really working so well about that? Well, the way Linda just described it, and it completely unaware that humans are walking around slaves, to a system that isn't working for them. Mm-hmm. It's working against them, and functioning to further separate them from their authority and who they are, and from the knowing that they do have choices, and just creating, we're all, hailing the almighty dollar, right? And consuming. Yes. And it's just this vicious cycle. And so, I think starting small again, I was reading today. I love the social studies curriculum that I chose for my 2 younger kids for our homeschooling. It's so fantastic. And it's, I think 10 different fiction books And each book is like maybe 50 pages. So, you know, we'll read one at a sitting. And today it was all about the Federal Reserve. And it did like this beautiful job of explaining to my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old what that is and how it came to be. And it was accurate. And
really accurate or
like really accurate, like mind-blowingly. This is the third book that we've read in this series. The series is called The Tuttle Twins. I might as well throw that out there and give this company a plug, you know, the Tuttle Twins. And it's these twins, and they learn these beautiful things and truthful, accurate things from everyone that they come into contact with. But anyway, you know, the family, the Tuttle Twins family, they make honey. And so they were actually trying to barter their honey. And, you know, there's just so much beauty in returning our children back to basics, where we can. And I think there's a balance in it all too. You know, there has to be some sort of a balance, right? And that's something that we can intuitively feel as we go forward. You know, I've known people who were so like anti-matrix, anti-establishment, anti-world, whatever you want to call it, that, you know, they weren't even bringing their children to the dentist, you know, when their children had, you know, really horrible dental problems and, you know, needed to be seen. Things like that. Like we need to understand where, you know, that we have choices in every moment. We have choices, and making those choices in accordance with our integrity, what we feel to be right for us in that moment. Not necessarily aligning with some ideology or some belief system, just having this open freedom to just check in with ourselves and move forward from that space.
And that which you described about the choice, and also, Linda, you mentioned trust, and you mentioned trust in the grand scheme of things, but we also talked with Bev about trust last week, and, you know, one of the things that she shared was that she didn't trust her elders. And when you were saying, Linda, you know, go back to the realizing that when we come together, 5 people, and we agree, we actually make a difference. And that's the beauty of being able to connect with our children and allow our children, because we all just want to feel safe and heard, don't we? So if we can provide an environment where everyone in our family feels safe and heard, or everyone we come into contact with feels safe and heard, we're actually making a difference in the world. In that moment, in that present moment that we're in, we're actually making a difference in the world. Yes. And we start to shift things. But because of our consumer culture, we've decided that in order to make a difference, we have to go out and do something really big to change the world. But actually, no, if we allow our children to feel safe and heard, then we provide a grounding for a future where the children that come next feel even more safe and heard. And, you know, it happens over generations. We don't necessarily see it in the big picture, but we get to experience it in our life because that's what we give to the world on a day-to-day basis.
Yes. Yep. That is the secret right there, because then our children are stronger and safer. When they go out and talk to their friends, then that helps them. And on and on. And I truly believe that is so very true. You know, and then they can meet the children who are having a bad day, you don't know what's happened in their home, why that child is feeling like that. Then that child can help that one just by saying, you're all right, you know, or whatever, you know, however they would word it, you know, because I think that just helps safety for everyone. You know, I do. Thank you for saying that. That I feel better already.
So we were talking before about, you know, how much you've seen at 72 years of age, how much you've seen the world change in your lifetime and how quickly things have changed. The question that pops to mind for me is, what is the beauty that you know exists in the world now?
right now, right on this day. Um, I I truly, for me, the beauty that I see is that in all of these houses, all on every road and everywhere, the people there truly want what is best for their children and for their families and for themselves. And nowadays, in this time now, I think that women and men have a much better chance of expressing how they feel and what's going on than we did 50 years ago. 50 years ago, there was much more of a you didn't leave, you didn't this, you didn't that, you weren't allowed to think, you couldn't, you had to have dinner on by 5. All those, that idea that is totally gone now. So in that way, I feel people, I believe that with this pandemic, all the people that are alive and in the world right now, not that I believe in, what's the word, that we can't change what's happened in the world, but yet the people that are, we're here to deal with this. And I believe that the people will see it through and the people will end up on the other side and everything is going to be okay. And I believe that because we're a lot stronger than they think. The ones who are trying to oppress and keep us slaves, like you were saying, there is a little bit of that with the Matrix and buying the Gucci and the, I don't even know the name of the fancy shoes. I don't, but I just mean that there's just as many of us everyday hardworking, believing in the human race as there are the ones saying, no, shut up, stay in your house, shut your mouth and turn off this business here. So that,
You know,
did I answer your question? I get going.
I love that. I love that so much because it's like we can see how sort of every, what do we want to call it, psyop or social engineering or whatever that goes down, there are more people that are starting to question. I saw even like last night, and I don't want to get super political here, but Kirsty, you probably know that we had the first debate between Trump and Biden, and I'm just scrolling down my Facebook page, and it was the first time in so long that I could see people agreeing on something, which was, wow, that was a shit show. Now, I only watched maybe 5 minutes of it because I don't watch shit shows and I don't need to watch the political theater. I know what's happening and what's going on. But
theater is a good word for it.
What's that?
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. But yeah, I mean, just, it filled my heart with joy. And, I was able to see how even coming out of that, just that alone, everyone was at least agreeing on something, right? And I guarantee that many people were looking at it all saying, what is really happening here? Is this possible that things could be this totally absurd and pathological and insane? There's got to be maybe more going on here. Now, if not, that's okay. I've sort of personally relinquished my own attachment that I had previously to sort of waking people up. I'm more just in that space of knowing that all will be, and whatever's going on with one segment of the world or not, this is what I'm going to be doing, and that's what I'm focusing on for myself and my family. But I still felt sort of that spark of hope in my heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people are now, number one thing, I don't really know how many or how serious the sadness is going through the whole world, but I am saying that there's so much more help for all of us today, between the books, between the self-help things. There's just much more accessibility, is that the word I want? Accessibility for us when we're feeling terrible, and with reason, and our hearts are breaking. We have much more places to go if the people that need that help, if there's a way to get it to them. And that is something that television, some of the matrix things that we do, I just do see a lot more hope there for people than 20 years ago. There's just, like the 911 call. I mean, that does help, a little bit. So, and that way, I think man has reached out his hand more than what I've seen in the past. And that I'm glad for that also.
Beautiful. So with that, I want to ask you the question, what is your knowing about what is possible for our world?
My knowing, and I am very, very hopeful and very thankful for the people who are willing to stand up and bring us forward more. Now, I look at medicine. Medicine has improved so much over the last 20 years. Many more lives are being saved than before. Our universities are struggling to help better our food instead of all the fake food that we've been having. Better food, hopefully, is going to be coming forward. I do not see a decline. I feel now we've had 8 months of the dark ages, and hopefully we will come out at the end of this and have better lives for people. Right now, there's if I think about too much of the sadness, and which I know that all is going on too, and that the bottom of all that is greed. I just hope that more and more people become aware of the greed that drives the how can I say, the slavery of people, the child abductions, all of those kind of things. As more people are going to speak up and pay attention to that and be aware of that, then I just see more hope for us in that way. I do, because I want to get out of these dark ages and to get going into a better light with people being more involved. And because of these situations like this, I see much more hope than I did, but 8 months ago. So, and every day I learn something. Every day I see something that, that I learn from. Did I answer that question?
I think that's so beautiful. And I've heard a theme, and it started when we were talking, actually it started when we were messaging earlier today about, it's amazing that we can Zoom and Skype around the world, and it doesn't really cost us a lot, and
Yes.
those types of things. And what I've heard throughout the theme in our conversation is that ability for us to be able to use this amazing technology that is ever expanding, with an intention that is pure, and that's what I heard weave through your answer just then as well, is that hope and that gratitude and that knowing, in a sense, that we're going to be okay, because there's enough of us who are using this technology for good, for authentic means of connecting with one another. And that will hold us in good stead as we move forward.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree. And it even ties in the same thing, Kirsty, Linda, when you were talking about even running electricity lines or running gas lines, like yeah, like technology, just like anything, right? It's all about the intention. And
It is. Yes.
we have amazing, genius technology at our disposal.
Yes.
And we can absolutely use it to co-create with loving.
I know. And we're talking to Christy, and it's tomorrow in the morning. Now, I'm sorry, that's my nothing. Now, when you just figure the Earth and the equator, you are below the equator. I mean, and to me, it's just a miracle. It truly is, because it took me a long time to get myself on this laptopy thing with the buttons pushed right.
And then also, you know, that the demonstration of it's light and it's sunny here and it's dark there where you are.
Yeah,
you know?
It's nighttime. Yeah.
You're on the other side of the full moon.
I know. It really is, you know. It's amazing.
It is. Yeah. Thank you so much, Linda. I'm so grateful, you know, having only known you for a few months, and and the reverence and the respect that the women in our circle have for you is profound. You know, I don't know if you have that realization, but everyone was so excited to hear that you were going to be able to share your wisdom today. So, you know, I feel blessed and so grateful that I was able to have this time with you, especially with, you know, just you, me, and Michelle. It's pretty special to me.
Yes, and me. Oh, and me too. Very much. Yes, very, very wonderful. Yes.
All the sisters are going to be so jealous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say, Michelle? Sorry.
You know what? I think that I would just like to quickly read the vision again. Is that okay?
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, yes, very good. Yes.
Okay. So our vision for this series is to remember and deeply anchor the following elements into the world. Honor and receive the crone's beauty and wisdom. Heal and identify distortions surrounding the elder woman, specifically in Western culture. And provide space for the wise voices and messages of each unique crone we interview to ring out across the landscape.
I like it.
Yeah. And that is our intention. So mote it be.
Yeah. Love it.
Thank
you so much for joining us today, Linda, and for sharing your wisdom and for allowing it to ring out. And I'm sure that people will take so much away from this conversation today. So yeah, I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye-bye.